Right there. Okay.
Okay,
A little
I'll
space.
just go with the flow then.
All right. Okay, we're good? Okay. So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are very excited to have author Staci Andrea here with us. And she's going to talk to us about her books and her writing, and we'll have the chance to ask questions. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today and for showing up, because it's sunny and gorgeous outside, and I even woke up this morning and thought, ooh, could be on a boat today. But I am really, really excited and so grateful that the library has let me come and speak. As a new author, it is hard to get your name into this world. And so I'm taking every opportunity that I can, and just to let people know who I am, kind of where I came from, how I started with writing, and where that process is right now. I am a thriller, suspense, mystery author. I'm kind of all three. I actually, although I loved writing growing up, I kind of sidelined it. You know, you graduate from high school and you figure out what you're going to do with your life, and I knew I wanted to marry my husband, and I had plans, and that kind of got put on the back burner because it's not a big moneymaker when you're looking at how you're going to support your family. So it kind of got put on the sidelines. And it wasn't until about 2.5 years ago that I even returned to writing at all. And it was simply because I had hit a really low point in my life. We were going through some things at home. I had one daughter graduating college, getting married, moving out. The other daughter had hit a rough patch. And it was just this time when you're trying to be super happy for one kid and struggling with the other, and all of this into mid-40s and the whole basket. And so I instinctively went back to journaling, which is what I did when I was a kid to make you feel better. It's going to sound terrible, but I call it barfing on my keyboard. Get all the emotion back out, and then it feels better. And so that is what I started to do. I started journaling. My daughter's making me so mad today, writing it down, and then all of a sudden, all of the little journal entries and the good things, the bad things, started to form this little ball of, wait a second, I've got some little stories here. And little springboards of, she'd make the best character. What can I build off of her? And so it went from little journaling just to make myself feel better. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, my kids are gone. I'm working. This is like second half of my life here now. So what are we gonna do? I'm gonna take some of these little stories and I'm gonna turn them into bigger stories. And it's what I did. So the first one that I actually wrote is not the debut novel that came out first. The first book that I wrote is Lake Lapse. And Lake Lapse is very near and dear to my heart because when I say we were going through family struggles and things at the time, this is what those journals and things kind of snowballed into. And at the heart of Lake Lapse, it's a story about a mother whose children are all getting older, and she's at this point in her life of what are we doing now? What am I doing with the rest of my life? But one daughter kind of falls in with a not so great group of people. And so the entire theme of the story ends up being, how far will a mother go? What will a mother do to really protect her daughter, essentially from herself, and making the decisions that she's making? And in that aspect of it, so that's the only little part I borrowed from my family, and then we just went off on a whole nother level. But basically, with Lake Lapse, the back of it, the way it's discussed is sometimes you have to have the rug pulled out from beneath your feet to test your spine. The award-nominated family suspense Lake Lapse is the broken fairy tale of the family next door in a quiet little lakeside town. How far are you willing to go to slay the dragon that threatened your princess? Who do you trade? Who and what can you let go of in order to save your family? It's a tale of family bonds and retribution, a battle to find peace. This is the story of one mother who was willing to go that far, and to save them, she danced with the devil himself. So that is my Lake Lapse. So that is the first one that I started sending out to publishers and to agents. As a new author, no agent wants you at all because you're brand new, you have no track record, they don't know you, you don't have a social media presence. So I just thought, okay, well, what small publishers are taking manuscripts? Because usually in the writer world, if you want into one of the big 5 fancy top publishers, you have to have an agent, you have to have sales, or they're not even going to look at you. But those smaller independent publishers are willing to take a risk, and they're willing to take a chance. And so I sat down, and I am not kidding you, I've kept my spreadsheets of I've well over 80 agents before I gave up on that avenue. Emailing, constantly messaging back and forth, and then started hitting with the smaller publishers. And Lake Lapse got picked up by Pegasus Publishers, who is actually over in the UK. They're not even stateside. So they took the chance on me, and we published. They signed that one up for publishing. The problem was, it was going to take them a full year to get this book out. Now, if you know me, I have crazy goals. My goal is 20 books on the market in the next 10 years. And so in my brain, 1 book a year is not going to cut it. So, as this one is on hold, waiting to be published, I went ahead and just started writing the next one. And the next one that I wrote is Frady Hole. And Frady Hole is really near and dear to my heart because within our family, my grandparents, we have dealt with Alzheimer's and with dementia. This is a tale that is completely different than the way stories have been told. Yes, it's a thriller. Yes, it's suspense. But at the heart of the story, it's the relationship between a grandfather and his granddaughter. And I actually took on the voice of in this story of the grandfather himself. So the whole story is told through the grandfather's point of view. He helped to raise this granddaughter. This granddaughter had a really rough time growing up. Her dad was out on the road a lot. Her parents divorced when she was really young, so she was at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Grandfather's also dealing with the loss of his own wife. So it's the struggle of what he can do to help this granddaughter who is now she is in her early 30s, and they're trying to figure out, just kind of make their way through life. And as this is happening, he's also kind of uncovering some things he's not real thrilled that he thinks she's done. And then it becomes, how much can I cover for you? I love you, I helped raise you, but how much can I just stand by and let some of this slide? And she has her own mental issues and things that she's dealing with, and he's trying to get her help as well. So when I wrote when I wrote Frady Hole, I did the same thing. I decided, nope, no agents, because that's not working. We're gonna go for small publishers. And first, I contacted the publisher that picked up the first one, and they said, no, we need to see what your book sales do before we pick up a second one. And again, my brain's going, I don't have time for that. So kept sending it out to other publishers and got picked up a really, really great small publisher in Texas called Black Rose Writing. And they are just amazing. They do a lot of mysteries, suspense, thrillers, horror genre. So if you're into any of that, suspense or mystery or anything, if you look them up online, it's blackrosewriting.com, and they support a lot of independent and new authors who are just coming up, and they're a really good platform for showcasing all of our work. This weekend, they're actually in Texas at the Texas Frightmare Weekend, and I'm pretty excited because Frady Hole is actually being showcased there. And I was looking on Amazon charts this morning, and although I don't consider it a horror, it is a psychological thriller, so it kind of fits into that. And as of this morning on Kindle, it was rated on #2 in US horror. So talk about exciting. So that's exciting stuff. Basically, the blurb that I have for Frady Hole is: the mind is a curious thing. It allows us to reach back into our memory banks and retrieve emotions, thoughts, smells, and feelings that can act as filler for our sometimes empty lives, warming the spaces in our hearts that are sometimes left void and broken. It can also completely drop memories, forcing us to forget the painful chapters so we're able to cut ties and move on. What happens, though, when the lines are blurred? When the reality and nightmares of your past collide? Can the mind make sense of it all? Can the brain and heart sort out the drama and the subtext? What happens to the soul when the mind cracks, even just a little? Frady Hole is the fictional dark suspense thriller that centers around a grandfather trying to save his granddaughter from herself, plays up exactly upon that line of questioning. Told from the grandfather's perspective, Frady Hole follows the unconventional life of the granddaughter, Arlo, as she navigates the pitfalls of adolescence into adulthood, paired with the unfortunate events that unfold while she's being influenced by an unusual leader into her darkness, her best friend, Bast. Together, they're torn between hiding in and trying to escape Frady Hole. And I've had a lot of people say, this title, where, Frady Hole, how did that come from? And for a long time I grew up, when I was really little, we lived in Florida and down south, and not quite that far south, but this book actually takes place in Oklahoma. And in that area, a Frady Hole is a storm cellar. It's where you go to stay safe. And so my version of Frady Hole is when this girl is having her problems and things, where's her safe place to go? And can she hide there long enough for the trouble to blow over, or is she going to get exposed of everything that's going on? So, and I'm really, really proud and excited also. Frady Hole has won quite a few little awards and placed second and third place in some awards. So it's making a little name for itself. So that one is Frady Hole. So that one got signed with Black Rose Writing. So I was really excited. So I just kept on writing and kept on writing. And then it brings us up to where I am now, which is Beneath Her Lies. Beneath Her Lies is more of a mystery. The other two are kind of more of a psychological thriller. Beneath Her Lies takes on really a mystery of a 32-year-old recovered drug addict. And her grandfather dies on the family farm in Wisconsin. And the family decides they're going to sell this farm. And so this granddaughter goes back home. She's a person who likes to hang on to things. So she begged and pleaded, let me go, let me see if there's anything to save before we sell the farm. I don't want to just let it all go. My best childhood memories of me and my sister were there. You know, this is where I want to be. So she goes back home to the family farm. And as she's sorting through her grandparents' things, she starts to unravel things about her grandfather that she never knew, and things that are directly affecting her family. And it becomes a internal struggle with her as to, if I act on some of these secrets and these secrets come out in the world, some of these things are going to destroy my sister. It's going to destroy my family. It's going to destroy my mom. Any money we're going to get from the sale of this farm, it's going to directly relate to that. So it really becomes an internal struggle of, what, again, with your family, what are you okay not outing? What are you okay hanging on to? How much guilt can you hang on to? So that is where that one came from. It's described as a beautifully twisted thriller that weaves together the dark past of a 32-year-old recovered drug addict, Ruby, with a delicate new life that she's trying to obtain. It's been said that you can't go home again. You can't go home to the past where your favorite childhood memories lie. You can't go back to where you once felt the most content and safe. Ruby's run away from the safety of her entire life, adult life, while running right towards danger. A true wild child, she found a false comfort in the arms of a man who drug her into his own personal hell. It would take years for Ruby to claw her way back out and to be strong enough to crawl back home. But what was home? Was it truly the place that her contorted heart remembered it to be? After the death of her granddad, she was lulled back under the pretense of sorting out his affairs, only to be blindsided when she arrived, finding herself in a web of lies and deceit, while still trying to cling to her newly found and carefully rebuilt sober life. The twisted web becomes all-consuming as Ruby is still struggling to find solid footing with her own past. She may be able to outrun her shadows, but can she keep her family secrets buried? And this one, Beneath Her Lies, when I started sending that one out, I got the same thing from the other two. Well, we have to see how the first one does. So I just kept sending things out. And it actually got picked up by a South African publisher called Kingsley Publishers. So I keep saying, if my books hit it big, I'm visiting South Africa. I'm going to go see the Queen. I'm going to go all over the place. So, and there is, in all of my books, the thing that I pride myself on, and the one thing that I really wanted when I started writing, I love all genres. I love to read everything. My brain cannot, I think people who can write science fiction are brilliant. People who can write fantasy, brilliant minds who can dream up these whole worlds and give places names and things names. My brain doesn't work like that. I'm in the here and now. And so what I pride myself on in all of my books is that it could be happening to the family down the street. It's not so far-fetched, it's not so outlandish that it's unbelievable. And that's kind of sometimes the hard part of reading it, because I've had people read them and go, oh, that could have been my daughter. Or, oh, that was my aunt. You know, it's so I like to say I like to pull back the curtains on the cookie cutter family down the street, because everybody has secrets. And it's just a matter of tactfully exposing some of those secrets and just showing people everybody has problems. No one can escape having problems in their family. So that was my third one that I had written and is now released. And so now they've kind of all caught up. It was kind of a strange about 4 months time when they just released because all of the different publishers just released them all at the same time. So that was really exciting, except now my panic sets in. People who are reading them are going, okay, what's next? Okay, come on now, you just shot 3 of them out. Let's see what you got now. So I am really excited. On top of those 3, I just signed a 4th one. And I actually signed the 4th one to the same publisher of Beneath Her Lies, Kingsley Publishing, because the feelings that we've gotten of this next one called Ghosts in the Glades that I'm sending out to reviewers and things, it's hitting really, really well. And it actually just 2 weeks ago won the Maxie Award for Best Thriller of the Year for 2024, and it's not even published yet. So I have a really good feeling. I have a good feeling about all the books, but this one is near and dear to my heart. Ghosts in the Glades. It sounds spooky. A little bit of it is spooky. It's set down in Florida near the Everglades, but at its heart, it is about a little boy who grows up with a growth hormone deficiency, and he spends his childhood in and out of doctors' offices, laboratories, and of course, what comes along with that, massive bullying. This kid just deals with it all his way through school. By the time he gets to middle school, his parents have had to sell just about everything they had to fund the research and to fund everything to try to give him a better way in life. And he feels terrible. He feels guilty about this. So they end up living in this little trailer court down south. And he befriends a little band of friends that they brand themselves misfits because it's how they feel. His best friend Jojo is in a wheelchair from a surfing accident. His other best friend, he doesn't know it when he befriends her, but her background is a little questionable, and he could never figure out at first when they met why kids at school were mean to her and didn't talk to her, and he slowly finds out why. But the story doesn't stay with the kids as they're young. It follows them, and these 3 little group of kids grow up, and along the way they also befriend an old man in this trailer court whose name is Mr. Scroggs. And Mr. Scroggs has been questioned for years about the disappearance of kids within their community and some other bad things. And so it was kind of a secret friendship that these kids had with this different little man that lived in their trailer court. So as they become adults, the main character's name is Jet. He grows up and he becomes wonderful. He has a fabulous life. He gets into funding research in the medical community, and along with that comes some other very shady dealings. And as an adult, he looks back with his friends and Mr. Scroggs, and he finds out what really was in their backgrounds. And as an adult now has to look back and decide, wow, these people that built me up for all of these years, these people that I've gone on this journey with and made something of myself, can this be true? Can these things I'm finding out really be true? And so it's a really struggle within himself, trying to figure out, do you stay true to these friends, the only ones that you had the whole time growing up, or is their truth too much for him to bear? So it's really exciting. That one's called Ghost in the Glades. And I'll give you just the very first intro to it. There's another gentleman in that story who is called the Pencil Man. And the Pencil Man is a good friend of Mr. Scroggs, and he is a shrimper. He likes to go down on the docks and shrimp. And he's a character, and he's completely blind. And he's like a sage in their trailer court. He delves out all the good advice. And so these little kids go out and hang out with Mr. Pencil Man. And so it opens with the Pencil Man is speaking. To curl up in fear like a cat trying only to protect the organs in its belly does you no good, boy. To make yourself small in these parts is just asking for predators to pick away slowly and meticulously at your bones, gnawing on your marrow until there's nothing left but a specter of what you'd once been. You want to win this? You want to claw your way out of the underbelly of the gator, ripping its head off for the win, wearing its teeth around your neck on one of those fancy pieces of leather that all the surfers are wearing? Then you got to get you a hog in the fight, boy. You got to force the thrive. And a big part of the book is this little boy growing up and trying to figure out how to face these bullies and these people that are keeping him down. So, and that one is pretty dear to my heart too. I got the idea about the little boy with the growth hormone deficiency because my nephew has it. And so it was really easy to draw from his character and just seeing his experiences in life and how he has just become one of the strongest little humans that I know at 13 and what he is capable of, and being able to ignore the voices and to just find his own trail and to blaze it. And so super excited for that one to come out. Hopefully it'll be out within the next 6 months maybe. And then beyond that one, I have 2 more that I'm working on right now. So I'm gonna make that goal of 20 in 10 years, everybody. And when I do, and when I become as big as Stephen King, I'm gonna come back here and say thank you all for coming and listening to my talk. But that is, it's you know, I came into writing just from such a honest place of trying to save myself. And it has snowballed into something giant, and it's been so fun going to get to talk to people. Next week I go speak with some little elementary school kids who have formed writing groups, trying to keep the love of writing going for everybody, because, I mean, if you get into this thinking you're gonna be millionaires unless you're Mr. King, that's not why you're getting into this. But to see so many kids, I don't want kids to do what I did, to get to that integral part of life where you could have kept going with it. But then you got scared, you backed off, you looked at money. Looking back, I should have kept writing. I should have done it, you know, just on the side as a hobby, just for fun, but I quit for all those years. And then at 45, decided to start it up again. So my goal is to try to get as many of those little kids interested in it and to keep going with it and not to give it up, because it is good for your mental health. If you're a writer, it's in you. You may not be born with the stories that you need to tell, but they're gonna come to you eventually. And to know that you have that gift and not to act on it is just such a shame. So I just try. I try to get kids to, and adults, but I really focused on trying to get those kids to not give up on it, because it's an art form. And I think that that's another part of it as well. As a kid, you're scared to put your work out there because it's just like any other art form. The critics are gonna come for you, and people are not gonna be nice all the time, and you have to be able to accept that. But it feels so good when you get it out there. So I'm really hoping that I can at least inspire a few of them to keep on going. The other thing, and I always, at the end of me talking about writing, I also have a PSA, because you're in the land of 10,000 lakes. And it's so cute, because when I talk to little kids will, whenever I say any questions, adults usually will just look at my hand and not say much, but a kid, oh my gosh, what is that on your hand? So, last summer, I'm coming up on 1 year anniversary, Memorial Day weekend. I was in Clear Lake, and we were out, we had our pontoon out. I went to climb off the side of the pontoon, and I just went to, you know, we had lily pads that you float in the water, and my nephews were there. Went to climb off of the side, and my hand, on a lot of pontoons, it's a rounded gate and a rounded railing. So when those rounds come together, there's a big Y shape that splays wide open. And I went to climb into the water, and my hand went right into between those two things, and it, without getting too graphic for you, took my finger right off. So what this is it was a very stressful situation. First, they attached my finger again. It did not make it. It died. They took it back off. Then I went through 3 more surgeries, and finally they ended up taking it down to the bone. The frustrating part of this is pontoon companies know about this defect in their gates, and it's still not industry standard to square the gates off. But had I known, and this is what I tell everybody, there is a simple $10 part on Amazon called a bumper guard, finger bump guard for gates, for pontoons, $10. You just put the little circle things in there so that your hand can't go down between where that gate is when it's open. So, and I had a brilliant nurse also tell me, when she has rented pontoons or she's on somebody else's pontoon, they cut a piece of styrofoam, those cheap pool noodles, just cut a little chunk of it off and wedge it in between there when that gate is open, so no little hands can go down in there. And then we started looking into having a prosthetic made, and the prosthetic company is, oh no, we don't have anything for people who don't have a finger, because my problem was when I was typing, without anything there, your hand naturally will roll. So I'm crawling across the keyboard and I'm thinking, I'm gonna get carpal tunnel. There's gotta be a way. Well, the prosthetic companies that we talked to said, well, we don't have anything, but between $14,000 and $16,000, we'll give it a try. And my dad said, no, this is ridiculous. 48 hours later, he built me a finger. And we actually went and had it patented. And I'm super, super excited about that because what our goal is going to be is to be able to give them to children under the age of 18. We're just going to make them and give them to them because if it makes you feel better, it helps with grip strength. It helps, like I said, when I'm writing, my hand doesn't roll because it can't because that's there. But that's the power of a dad's love, 48 hours. And he said, nope, we've got to do something about that. So that's my big PSA for you all on the boats this summer. Keep your fingers off the gates. And if you see little kids, shove a pool noodle or something in that space because it just happened that fast. It was such a simple thing, but what can you do? So there we are with that. Besides that, there's my books. There's my writer's story. Any questions about anything exciting at all?
I've got oodles of them.
Oh!
Go
ahead. Oodles?
Oodles and all kinds of stuff. When you're typing,
Yes.
we do use our little finger. For
Yes,
some
we do.
words. Have you adapted to use your second?
Well, what I wanted to be able to do was to adapt. When I first, let me take this off, I'll show you. So when I was first typing, and you don't realize when you lose your pinky, you also lose 50% of grip strength in your hand. So everything becomes weak. When this finger got taken off, this one, I also, of course, I didn't realize how many of the tendons and nerves from both of these fingers are connected. So when this one went, it just pulled on the nerves and everything with this one too. So originally this finger was locked down like this right afterwards. So what I did instinctively is would try to hold it up and just type with the other three fingers, using this finger to try to hit on the numbers over there on the side. But now I've gotten enough feeling back with this one that when I'm typing, I will drop it if I'm not in a rush, because I also work for public health and insurance. So this is my all day, and this is also my all night. So what I do try to do though is I try to do my typing, and if I have time to do the numbers, I will force that one to do the numbers on the number keyboard just for the physical therapy aspect of it. But really for most of the time, I'm just typing like this and letting that one float on top. The week this happened, I was downstairs and I thought, and when this happened, I was in the middle of writing this one and I had to hurry up and get it done. So the first thing I did is I went downstairs and I put my mouse in my left hand. If you are not a left-handed human being, to put your mouse in your left hand and try to control what it's doing on the screen is the most foreign, strange thing. Just try it. Just try to put everything in your other hand, because when it first happened, it was casted and I couldn't do much with it at all. So it was a matter of getting this hand used to doing that, and then, okay, stopping and taking your hand over here and typing like that. So it has been pretty wild. It's been a wild journey, but I have found, at least when I wear the little prosthetic, and I'm typing, at least because it will not allow my hand now to roll, and there's a little bit of weight to it. So it just trips your mind out into thinking that that finger is there. So your hand stops rolling and it stops doing that. So, yeah.
So you're still working full time?
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
So
When
do you write?
at night. Which I've always been.
We have a routine.
I've always been a night owl. My husband he goes to bed at 8 o'clock at night. I'm up till 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just always, and I'll get up for work at 6 o'clock and go in. It's the way it's always been. So when this happened, it was, of course I had the 6 weeks where I was home from work because I couldn't do anything. So then my brain just started brewing of ideas. And I took my left hand and started making the most horrendous chicken scratches. Because if you haven't written with your left hand, that's not fun either. So I was making my little lists of things so that when I got rolling again, I'd be able to do it. And when I write my books, it's easy to use a speech to text and to let the computer do it. It doesn't format well for me, but I can speak and let it do the work, and then my sister or I later on can go back and work on formatting the words that I have spoken. At work, it doesn't work like that. You're in spreadsheets and everything else. So what I've learned to do is use my hands for work and then lay off of them writing at night to give my hands a break. So I found a way, and I've joined a couple of really good boards on Facebook. There's a finger and thumb amputee board There's 2 of them. And just the stories that are on there. I mean, I have one pinky missing, and you get on there with some of these families of these kids, and one little girl on there had her fingers ran over by a rollerblade. Somebody was rollerblading, and she lost fingers that way. Then there's the service members on there who, it's an arm, it's a leg, and so you just think, I can make things work without a finger. It's just a finger, we can do this. So, and that's kind of what I'm also trying to help with. I've got some kids and things that reach out and, you know, that don't feel so good about things. And so if I can just, am I happy all the time? No. Do I look at it sometimes and go, oh my, of course I do. But you have to keep going with it. In fact, the best story I have about it, I keep talking about my nephews. I have older ones, but I have 2 younger ones who they just turned 10 and 13. But this happened, they were 9 and 12. And I didn't let them see it right away. Thankfully, the day we were on the boat and it happened, they were not standing where they didn't even see it, thank goodness. Otherwise, I don't think they'd ever get on the boat again. But I kept it wrapped until it healed quite a bit before I let them see it. And so the first time they saw it, they had a little friend over with them. And the boys are sitting in the living room and they're like, Stace, can we see it? Can we see it? Yeah. So I hold my hand up like this. And I love kids because they're just so brutally honest. Oh, their mouths just hung open and they looked. And the one goes, so cool. It's like an alien. And I said, yeah, it kind of is. But then the younger one looks and says, no, you know what it's like? He looks at his friend, he goes, it's like a Ninja Turtle. Yes, it is. The Ninja Turtles only have like 3 or 4 fingers. It's perfect. And I just thought it was just the most wholesome, innocent thing. But then what got me is they both looked at me and went, you're going to be great with magic tricks. And I'm thinking, I still haven't come up with what that might be in their world. But yeah, they're just the most honest little people and it's fun. So like with the finger thing, I wear the silver one because it is kind of like jewelry and I get to change the nail. But now we're making them with 3D printers. And so we're going to make them in Ninja Turtle green, Barbie pink, just fun things for the kids. But yeah.
Okay, another question.
Yes.
You have some older characters with
Yes.
your grandpas in various books.
Yes.
Is this because you had a grandpa that you really appreciated, or are you just aware of elderly people?
A little bit of both. Working for I work for Sarasota County Department of Public Health, and we work in home care. So I'm around elderly populations all the time. But further than that, my husband has always thought that my family is just, wow, you don't see it a lot. I was very, very lucky, even when we didn't live close to them anymore. Clear up to the age of like 16, I would fly home and stay with my grandparents at the farm every summer. And so both sides of the family, I was lucky enough to do that. Both my mom and my dad, both of their parents were still alive. We were just as close to both of them. And so they both lived out in the country in Iowa, and that is how I spent my summers. And it was that close. And so you'll see a lot of that, me being able to pull from and watching them age. You know, being there from the beginning to watching them when one side of my family, it was COVID that they went through and it was Alzheimer's. And then we had breast cancers and we had heart attacks and we had just all of the things that a family goes through. And I think I draw a lot on that and the emotional side of it. Like in Friday Hole, when it's Arlo and her grandpa Bobo, the book is being told through his perspective, but there's times you're getting her perspective, and that's the granddaughter side of, no, I wasn't like Arlo, but I had a front row seat of watching a family, as great as they were, start to age and fall apart. And that heartbreaking, horrible end of it, that side of it. And what do you do and how do you get help and that whole aspect of it too. So I think I have a huge affinity for the elderly population, and I think between my work and just the way that I grew up and being with them all the time, that's it. And if I ever have any questions about anything, I have my one grandma is still with us. She's just turned 91. And so she's a great resource. And she is actually my first editor. She's my first, anything I write, she reads it first. And she will honestly look at you and be like, you spelled this wrong on page 74. I don't think he should have said it that way. So, and then she's also my biggest cheerleader, but I always tease her, I'm like, you're the best editor.
You talked about starting late. I just have a comment because you have such a rich story, different stories. I don't think you ever would have been able to write this kind of book without the life experience
Yes.
that you're describing.
Right.
And the people you've watched. Tracy.
Yes.
I mean, I know it's good to encourage kids to write,
Yep.
but I think you probably have an easier time of getting to 20 books now.
Right.
than you would have.
And I think just through talking to people, there's some people I think that are born with it, and you have every story in your head, and your mind just works that way. And I wasn't that way. I think you need to experience, like I always say, I had to experience the extreme highs of life and the lowest of lows to be able to carve out that emotional draw, to be able to create a character, not just a character, but when you read one of my books, I want you to feel like you walked out of a movie by the time you're done. I always say that Stephen King, who I love, I always say, in his books, within the first couple chapters, you're in that town. You know what it looks like. You know what it smells like. You know the strange ways that the town people act. I mean, you've got it all. So I've always kept that in the back of my head, that I want the experience to be more of, I want you to put that book down and step back, and I want it to sit with you. I want you to feel like you really just experienced something, not just, oh yeah, that was a cute book. No, I want to shake you up a little bit. I want to hit the emotion. And the other one who I am just in awe over right now, I don't know if you read Lucinda Berry's books. She's a thriller writer. She's absolutely amazing. She has signature twists. It's what she does. Her books never go the way that you think they're gonna go. And I like to see my books in that same kind of category and genre too, but she's another master of what she does. So if you haven't read Lucinda Berry, she's just amazing. And it's a thriller mystery genre author. And yeah, she's like a Stephen King of ladies.
One more question.
Yes.
My brother he wrote in his retirement, and he contracted, I think the last book, he wrote 3.
Yeah.
And the last one was a small Texas. And so your description of finding a small publisher, how much do they work with you? Do you have to, it sounds like they edit, or
Yeah.
they just take
So it just depends on who it is that you want to work with. The very small publisher out of South Africa, Kingsley, that's taken on 2 of my books, I think they've been around for 6 years now, maybe 8. They don't have an in-house editor to go through the first proofs of everything, so they ask that you have your book edited first before it comes to them. Black Rose Writing, who is the one in Texas, and also Pegasus over in UK, they have in-house editors. And so when they take on your manuscript, they do the editing. They make sure it's good. And so far, all 3 of the publishers I work with have been amazing at, you sign your contracts, you send your things off. Then they change what they want, they send it back to you. You always have full control of, do I want this changed or not? As far as advertising, they don't have the big budgets because they're not the big 5. And so you do a lot of that yourself. But what I have found is, especially, and I'm trying to do the same thing with Kingsley Publishers, they don't have one yet. Black Rose Writing has a team of, it's a Facebook group of all of their authors that are housed beneath them, and we lean on each other, do each other's advertising to get it out everywhere. Hey, I entered this contest, is that a legitimate one or not? Yeah, and so it's nice to have people to bounce things off of like that. But as far as that's pretty much the only thing that you have to do. They take care of, as far as cover design and things like that, they ask you for ideas. And if you have something you like, you send it to them. Otherwise, they have their cover artists and everything, and they do it. But then you get the final approval of what's going to actually hit the market.
Do you, do they take a cut of everything you sell?
Oh.
You have to buy a certain number?
Nope, you don't have to buy anything if you don't want to. But the way that smaller publishers work basically is they just give you a contract, and the general, usually I think for most of them, it's anywhere between 15 and 25 or 30% you keep. And they do all of the printing, promoting, the bit of what they do for promoting, getting it lined up on Amazon as well as in the Ingram system so that libraries can purchase them, out on Barnes & Noble and all of the big online booksellers. Now, to get into like a Target or a Walmart, you have to sell a lot of books before they'll even let you in the door. But at least, because there's a whole big wave of people who are self-publishing themselves and doing it, and they're able to do it. I do not know enough about the editing publishing world to make my book look good. If you can do it, I mean, there's some great self-publishers out there, some really wonderful ones, but you have to have the time. I work full time. I can't do that either. So, and you'd have to know, and you know, who's going to do your cover art, and you're going to have to pay for this and pay for that. And so for me, it was just easy to think, okay, I'm not going to get in with one of the big five right now. Maybe I can get lucky, and if I pester all of these smaller publishers enough, somebody will take me on. And I got very, very lucky, and I got 3 of them so far. So, yeah, but it's persistence. I mean, it's just emailing and emailing and emailing. And there's, I'm trying to think of what the name is, that website that I absolutely love. It's Reedsy. But it's not spelled, it's not read like you're going to read a book, and I don't know why it's not spelled that way, but it's Reedsy. And Reedsy.com is a wonderful resource where you can go and they will show smaller publishers that are accepting manuscripts without an agent, and they will also show vetted contests that are opening that are actual contests and worthy of the writing community. And then they also have different boards and things that you can just chat to authors, readers, writers, everybody is on there. So that's a really, really good one, Reedsy. Yep.
You mentioned Stephen King a couple
Yes.
of times. He's near and dear to my heart, too.
Yes.
Have you read his book on writing? And have you read any other books about writing to help to learn about writing at all?
Yes, I've read on writing, and he's just been my thing ever since. My very, very first book I had of Stephen King was Nightmares and Dreamscapes when I was 14 years old. Still have the same copy. It looks horrible, and it sits on my bookshelf where I sit and type, and I look at it all the time, and I'm thinking, my goal someday is just to get one of my books into his hands. I don't care if he hates it. I just want to get one book into Mr. King's hands, and I'll be like, that's it, I made it, I can go now. That's all I need. But I did, and actually, this is where it gets strange. So even though I didn't plan on doing this career-wise, I went to school to actually be a dental assistant. Did that for 20 years. After that, when I went to work for the Department of Public Health, I went into insurance and financial management. To do that, I had to go back to school. You have to take a lot of electives when you're in school, so I started taking composition, writing, and all of these classes there at our local community college, and the professors kept looking at me saying, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you writing? Why'd you quit writing? So again, it was somebody else waking something up in me going, hey, you're not a kid anymore, but you can do this. You know, you can give it a shot, try it. And so I've thanked them multiple times since then, because that, along with just my journaling, just kind of woke me up and thought, well, why am I not giving it a try now that I have time?
And you mentioned in passing you're working on 2 more books right now.
Yes.
How do you manage 2 at a time?
I didn't mean to. So what happened with the 2 that I'm writing right now, I had an idea for one of the ones that I'm writing clear back when I started writing, when I was writing Frady Hole. And the idea for that book is it just came to me one day when I was driving to work, and it's about this gentleman and his best friend and his wife, and they go camping all the time, and then this really bad thing happens, which I can't tell you what the thing is, but I had this in my brain. So I sat down and I started writing it like I do, and I am not a big planner when I write. I will sit down, and if it's a good weekend, you won't see me for the next 2 days because I just go. Or sometimes what I have done is I will get the first 3-4 chapters done, get impatient, know what I want to do with the end, skip to the end, write the end, then go back and figure out how to connect the 2. Well, when I was working on this one, I got about halfway through it and I hit writer's block. I knew how I wanted it to end. I have no idea how I'm going to get it there. And it was weeks of nothing is coming, nothing is coming. I can't, I guess I'm done. I have no more stories to tell. And then on my way to work, an entire different story took shape in my head. Just would not leave me alone after that. So I had to put the one down and flip over and start writing the other one because it just was nagging at me that I had to write it and I had to write it. And it's a really different one. I can't even tell you why the thought came to my brain, but that one is about a little boy who grows up in Chicago from pretty wealthy parents, and the family has a really seedy back history. And he basically grows up in a bar, and gets into a lot of trouble. But and it's actually about a relationship of him and his sister, and how they're growing up together, and their father is a police officer and their mother's a county attorney, and they're kind of untouchable in this little town because of who their family was. So they get in trouble a lot. So I switched over and started writing that one. So I was just talking to my husband before coming up here today, and he goes, "When are you going to get back to that other one?" And I'm like, "I know, I have to, but now I got to finish this one because that one won't shut up, so that I can turn around and go back to the one that I put on the back burner again." But since then, I did have some ideas of the original one that I was working on of how to get from point A to point B. And I say I'm not a planner. I'm not one to sit down and outline a whole book. But once I get going with them, then what I like to do is I'll be anywhere and I'll have an idea for a book and I'll stop and I'll make a note. I live off of Post-it notes. It's not the most professional way to get it done, but it's what I do.
For creative.
Yeah.
They're all over the house.
Yep, they're all over. There's Post-it notes all over. And then too, like when I'm creating a character, I know the basics of what I want them to do, but then I pick my town and then I do the back, the digging into the backgrounds of, okay, if I use this small town, what's there? What is going to resonate with people who live in that town? I want them to pick it up and be like, she knows about, whatever it is. So I try to sneak some of that in there as well. But for the most part, I'm either just painfully sitting there, knocking it out, writing, or it's Post-it notes all over my house.
Do you do any writing longhand? It's all over the computer.
Before this, I did a lot. It was more of just my ideas and notes came longhand. Or if we go on a trip, if we go visit somebody and if I'm in the car a long time or if I'm in a plane or anything, then I'll longhand it. But for the most part, longhand kind of slows me down. Well, now it really slows me down, but I've gotten better. Longhand kind of slows me down. What I like about typing it out on a computer, and I tell everybody, is no matter how bad you think something is, don't get rid of it. Save it. Whatever it is, just save it to your computer, because you may not like it for this story, but something in that thing that you don't like can be part of a character or part of a story or something that'll tip you off to another story down the road. So just never, even if you write 2 paragraphs and just go, oh, no, don't get rid of it. Just put it in your maybe someday pile on your computer. So that's the beauty of doing it on the computer, is that it's all there and you can download it onto your little disk or your drive, and you have a kind of a little treasure trove to pull ideas from when you get stuck.
So you're thinking about this 20 books in 10 years.
Yes.
Do you have a lot of confidence then that ideas will come?
I think so. I did. I had a lot of confidence until I started the one book and then got frozen in the middle of it. But I think they will, because I think it's, like we said before, it's life experiences. And I'm also a huge movie buff. I could sit for 12 hours and just watch movies from the 80s over and over. And I think growing up like that and having that love for the cinema too, your brain sees, like, you're out in public, and this is probably going to sound weird, but even right now looking at you guys, I'm thinking, oh, character. Okay, here's what I could do for you. I could put you in this town, and then this is what you could do, but you met her over here, and she has that backstory, and then it just kind of snowballs. So along the way, what I've been kind of doing is any little character, any little town, anything that I just think, ooh, that would be so good to use somewhere, I take note of that, hoping that as I go down the road, if I do get to a point where, now what am I going to write, I can dig back in this little treasure trove of notes that I made and think, hey, who in here in my little vault has a backstory? Where are we going now? But I never want to veer from the type of stories that I'm writing. And that's my biggest thing. I want it to be lifelike. I want you to feel like you're reading a true story. And that's just the way that I write. And if anything is starting to veer from there, then I'm done and I won't do it anymore. Because that's just, I don't want to do something that's not true to my ability. And like I said, I am no fantasy writer. I'm no science fiction. I wouldn't even try it because it wouldn't be good. I can tell you that. Leave that to those who do it. I can't do it. So I'm just more about true stories, and stories keep happening. I mean, even as my family gets older and the kids grow up and they meet friends, and you just hear around bonfires, oh my goodness, did you hear what happened over in? Absolutely I did. And how could I twist that into something else or use part of that?
How do you organize those notes? Now you're talking about them all over the house.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't throw anything away,
Yep.
I throw that away.
Yep.
What do you put it all in the same folder, how would you ever find it?
Yep. So basically, on my little sticky notes that are around the house, if I'm writing a sticky note that's pertaining to something I'm actually writing, I'll put that on the bottom. So I'll know that, okay, that's going to there. If I'm writing something for a future book or an idea of a future book, I'll tag it with that. Okay, that's where that one's going to go. And then eventually I'll take the actual Post-it notes and I'll put them on the computer, so that I've got an actual record. And I've got so many different files on my computer. I have a file of Southern stories, things that take place down south, or I have a file of, I actually, sounds odd, but I've broken them up into, I have historical stories, I have hospital stories, I have teenage stories. So any little nugget that I think would fit in between of any of these things, I just put them into whatever, drop them into whatever little file I think might work. Maybe they won't work, but they're in there. Yeah. Anything else? You guys have just been so much fun. I thank you so much for coming in today and talking to me and letting me be at your library. And I brought bookmarks for you, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, Staci. That was fabulous.
Okay.
And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, make sure you check out the details of how to find her books. And if you like programs like this, please let us know so that we can keep inviting authors and exposing you to new ideas and great stories. So we'll see you next time.